This is a tutorial to demonstrate how to create an RTMP to RTSP bridge using a Raspberry Pi computer running the Ubuntu Linux operating system and using the docker-wyze-bridge project from GitHub. So this is everything that came with my docker-ce-cli Raspberry 4 GB kit. Of course, I've got the Raspberry Pi quick start guide, the actual computer, a standard micro HDMI to standard HDMI adapter. So this is what I'm going to use to plug in an adapter, a monitor. And let's see, then I've got a compatible Raspberry Pi 4 compatible heavy duty aluminum case with a fan, with a fan. And then I've got the USB-C Raspberry Pi compatible power supply with on-off switch. Okay, I'm in business here now. Well, so this is everything that came with my Raspberry Pi docker-ce 4G kit. Of course, I got the quick start guide, which you're going to have to read. The computer itself, look at that little bitty thing, 4 GB Raspberry Pi 4 computer. Then it also comes with a heavy duty aluminum case with a fan, and also a cable. It's basically a USB to HDMI cable, and so this will allow you to connect a monitor to the device so you can see what's going on. A power supply plugs into one of the USB power supply port on the unit, and then of course into your wall on the other side. Now, the one thing that didn't come with this was a SD card, or a micro SD card. So I bought this extra. This is a 128 GB Samsung SD card, and now I need to take some time out to look at the quick start guide and then get ready to get busy. Okay, so here we go. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this board into the case here. So I pull out the instructions for that, and it says here, remove the SD card from the PI before installing or removing the PI from the case. Well, it's not in there. I just got it, so don't have to worry about that at this point. Place the top part of the case over the PI. I say, because I'm not very good at following instructions anyway, I always like to do my own thing here. So I'll just tell you what we're going to do. I know, see, these two wires are going to have to go onto this circuit board, you see, and these pins here. Now, these pins are numbered, and so just according to these instructions, the black cable is supposed to go on pin 14, and the red cable on pin number 1. Okay, and they even are nice enough here to show us where pin number 1 is. So according to this, pin number 1 is going to be the first pin. If you look at this this row here, the first pin on the right. Okay, so I know I should have that aligned and everything like they said to do, but hey, I feel better just holding the darn thing in my hand right now. So let's see if this is the, yeah, this is the bottom of the case and this is the top. So let me just hold the thing in my hand right now. So for the red cable, pin number 1, that's easy. That's just this first one here. I'm going to pull my magnifying glass out in a minute. I can't get this. Alright, now the black one is going to go on pin number 14. Now the way I get to 14 is just by counting the pins, right? So I start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, which would be that bad boy right there. So all I have to do is just keep focusing on it, because these pins all look alike after a while. And then boom. Aha! Alright, so let me double check that. Alright, so now this is the top. You can see this is where you had a little fan. So now I'm going to take the bottom of this thing, lay this thing down in there, comme ça, lining up with the, there we go. Haha. So as you see, I had to kind of angle it in, slide it in, because we have our USB ports here and here. These are small, like micro and what is that? The USB-C ports there. So there's 2 holes. There's a hole for screws here and here, but then there's these little, I just call them pegs, that sort of stick up, right? That the board aligns to, in these 2 holes here and here. Now again, I hope you can see this, and I hope this helps somebody when they get to this part. Alrighty then, so install the 4 screws. Let's see here. So for holding the 2 pieces together, turn over the pie case, and then install the 4 screws. Okay, so let's put the 2 pieces back together again, like this. Yeah, you even got a little snap. What do you know? Alright. And then I guess the 4 screws go in there. So I got my ultra mini screwdriver I've had for years, ever since I started calling myself repairing or upgrading or whatever, screwing around with my PC systems. So, you know, it still comes in handy after all these years. Okay. And now my Raspberry Pi is in the case. So that's the beginning, at least, huh? Ha 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 ha. Alrighty then. Well, looks like I was so excited about getting the cover. Putting the motherboard inside of my aluminum case, I forgot about the heat sinks. So yeah, there are a couple of chips in here that apparently get pretty hot. Well, I'll read what it says here. There are 4 chips on a Raspberry Pi that can get very hot if the device is working hard. The central processing unit and 3 more chips that control various functions on the board. The main heat out points on a PI, and they have a little picture here, which is the left side here. There are 4, right? And then installing a heatsink on the CPU. That's this is a little picture that you see there, right? And that's the CPU there. So apparently I've got 2 heat sinks here, one for the CPU and the other looks like it's for, because it fits this size perfectly, for this other chip in here, which I'm not sure what that is, but that's what the heat sink is for. So let's see, let's line this up. Oh, this is the heat sink. These are the 2 things that came with the case. I was like ignoring them. So that's fun rule. When stuff comes, you know, with stuff, don't ignore it because there's probably a reason for it. So let's see, let's align this up correctly. Okay, this looks like that's the way that's going to go. So I peel off the adhesive. Well, I peel off the cover to the adhesive so it has a little adhesive bottom. And then stick that bad boy on like that. And it should just stay on there. Boom. Heatsinko. Yes. And then the second one here is going to go down there. And whatever that thing is, let's see. Let's take off the little backing to expose the heatsink thermal adhesive. Ha 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 ha. And then stick that little bad boy down there. And boom. That one's on there. Not perfect, but hey, it's on there. Alright. So now let's put this back in here. So as you recall, remember you have to kind of slide this bad boy in there, right? So that the so that you get the those USB ports. Let me turn this around the other way, where we had it originally. And you notice I try to only touch the sides of the board. I don't want to touch any of the components, electrical components. There's a little thing about, I mean, I'm not an electrician, but I know a little bit about that body electricity that can cause a little surge and destroy chips. That much I remember from my days of building PCs. So I'm just going to slide in there and then have that drop in. Like that again. Make sure my little cables in 1 and 14 are still secure, and then drop that bad boy in there. That looks to be it. And then we'll screw this thing back on, and then we can continue to the next adventure. In fact, let's do that now. Let's see. So, let's see, these are little slider bump things for the bottom of the case. Don't need to put those on right now. So, let's take the power supply here. I'm going to plug that in. Now this appears to be a USB-C cable, if I'm not mistaken. I'll plug that into the USB-C port. There's only one on this board. Then let's get our our HDMI adapter cable. That appears to be a USB. Is that a mini or a micro? I think it's a USB micro. And so I find a USB micro port on this bad boy. Boom. That works like a charm. Now, I have a USB a keyboard, so let me get that. And actually, let me get that, and I'll get the monitor. Try to rearrange all this junk, and then see if we can get to actually turning this bad boy on. Yeah! Okay, so now let's connect everything up here. So this is my HDMI cable, and I'm connecting to the HDMI connector. This is for the monitor, and here is my Ethernet cable. I'm going to plug in here, give the unit internet access. Oh, you know, I didn't even do most of well. And then here is my dongle, as they call it, USB dongle for the keyboard. There's a combination keyboard and a mouse here. So let's put that in there. Oops, let's see, is it the right way? Notice that there is a there is a USB 2.0 and USB 3.0. You can tell the 3.0 by the blue little stubs there. So let's, okay, that is in there. And then finally, USB card. Stick it out of in here. Okie dokie. So I've been using Ubuntu on my I got an old laptop and I installed Ubuntu on it, and that's what I've been using for my for my Waze-bridge for the cameras in and outside of my house. Now I also want to install some Wyze 3 cameras in my garage. Well, my garage is, I actually have a router, an access point in my garage, but my garage is connected to my house via a wireless bridge that runs extremely slow. So last thing I want to have happen is to have cameras in the garage, right, that have to go through that wireless bridge link to get to the Linux laptop in my house and then send it back. I mean, that's just crazy. So what I'm going to do, and the whole reason that I'm getting the I'm installing the Raspberry Pi, is to put that in the garage and have it run the Waze-bridge, sorry. So anyway, that's the master plan here. So I've gotten familiar with Ubuntu, you know, simply because I've got, you know, everything working for the Waze-bridge under Ubuntu on the laptop. So I figure, well, let's just use the same one, the same OS for the Raspberry. So I don't have an SD card on my laptop, but I do have one on my Windows computer. So this is a page that you get to. You just search for how to install Ubuntu desktop on Raspberry Pi 4. So I'm going to download the Raspberry Pi imager for let's see, downloads for Windows. All right, so let's just go ahead and do that. And I think that is now installed it. So let's run it. And by the way, I haven't done this before, so install and run it. Okay, so I'm going to choose the OS, and it says here to find Ubuntu you have to select other general purpose OS, and I want Ubuntu, and I want Ubuntu for the Raspberry Pi 4. Let's see what the other options are. And, okay, so let's just go with this. Alright, now I have to choose my storage. So I'm going to choose the generic GD2S5 SD card, which is just a Samsung card that I mentioned earlier, which is mounted as drive J on my PC. So let's select it. And let's click write. All existing data on the SD card will be erased. Are you sure you want to continue? It's a brand new card, nothing's on it. Yes. And there. Well, it turns out getting that SD card in there turned out to be a little bit more problematic than I had imagined, but I think it's in there now. I think that's how it goes. We shall see. This thing should boot up and say Ubuntu. So here's the switch right here. So I'm going to flip the switch. Everything's plugged in, monitor's plugged in, so we shall see what happens. And I got a screen with stuff, colors on it, and let's see, let's come up with something talking about partitions and this, that, the other. And ooh, Ubuntu. Okay, so let me switch my screen position so you can see what comes up with Ubuntu. So as you can see, I've gone major old school here, but anyway, Ubuntu. It did boot up with Ubuntu, so that means it is reading the SD card, and my little Ubuntu SD card install ideally must have worked. Alright, so English. Yeah, we want English. And now I'm in the system configuration. Keyboard is going to be English US. That's correctamente. And where are you? La ciudad de Los Ángeles. No, la ciudad de la reina de Los Ángeles. I think that's correct. Ooh, okay. And what am I going to name this? I'm going to name this, this is Raspberry Ubuntu. How about that? Oops. Ugh. And we'll name it, let's see, Raspberry Ubuntu. Yeah, weak password. Continue. So it's installing the system. Cool. Well, folks, this is the easy part, because next comes getting all of the software installed that I need in order to get to the point where I can install the wyze-bridge or the waze-bridge. You know, I need to Google how you pronounce that. Is it wise or is it waze? Guess we'll see. Okay, so Ubuntu is up, installed, and at least preliminarily configured. So let's see what we got here. So there's a couple of things I want to put on. One is to make sure that the SSHD engine is running. Okay, so I ran into some technical difficulties, which always happen. It appears that the Raspberry did not like my Logitech keyboard with the combined keyboard and mouse, so I had to actually plug in a mouse and a keyboard. But I went ahead. There are two packages that I always install. One is Joe, which is a text editor I like to use, but by default you can use the VI editor. Of course, you'll have to learn. It's a text editor, and one of the first to develop, I think, for the old Unix systems. I don't know how many years ago, but it works. So most of you, that's probably what you'll use, and you have to Google how to use VI. The second thing I installed was SSH, which basically allows me to connect to the computer remotely via a remote terminal, which is what I've been used to doing now for decades. And even though this little computer is in my house, I still like to be able to SSH into it. Again, you can do whatever you need to do simply by using the command line terminal. And the way you get that on your favorite screen, right? Click on Activities, and you type terminal, and you right-click it once it comes up, and then just say Add to Favorites, and it will put it on your favorites line. And the other one you may want to put on there is the text editor, which will allow you to not even have to go through, text editing from the command line. So let's just type in text. Oops. And it is the text editor. Right-click it and tell it to add to favorites. So now, right, if you need to edit a file, you just click on that. Can't run this as administrator. I'm going to have to study that. So the way I would normally do it, if I'm doing it from the command line, is I drop a window open, and then I go sudo su, right, and I type in my password. Now I'm running as root administrator. Now I go back out to that same file and I use my favorite editor, which is Joe. That was hostname, I believe. And now I can edit it to my heart's content. Okay. And let me see if I misspelled it anyplace else. Raspberry. But we've got the Raspberry Pi running Ubuntu. It's connected to the network. So now all we have to do is load Docker, and then from there load the Wyze-bridge. So making progress, folks, making progress. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, hide the children, because we're going to try and do 3 things here. We're going to install Docker, and then we're going to install Docker Compose, and then we're going to use Docker Compose to install the Wyze, the RTSP Wyze-bridge. Or Wyze-bridge. Geez, I don't know. I think I'm going to start saying Wyze. W-Y-Z-E. Probably Wyze instead of Waze. I'm thinking Waze is that's the navigator, right? Anyway, I digress. Okay, so I pulled up these instructions here. I think this is what I used originally, right? Install Docker Engine on Ubuntu. Another reason why I picked Ubuntu instead of using the Raspberry Linux, because there's very few instructions on how to do anything in the Raspberry Linux. Okay, so I've already ran, so I'm going to install using the repository. So I got this stuff that I've got to install first. So let's just go ahead and type that in here. let's see what we get. Do you want to continue? Yes, sirree, Bob. Okay, so it looks like it is installing all of this stuff here. And look at that. That went pretty fast. Okay. Now we have to add Docker's official GPG key. Don't know what that is, but hey, let's just copy it and paste. Look at that. No complaints there. And then I don't know what this is here that we're supposed to type in. The LSB release command returns the name of your Ubuntu distribution. Okay. Well, I'm not sure what this is supposed to do, but I'm going to copy it and paste it. And hopefully it will do what it's supposed to do. Alright, didn't complain. Alright, let's see. Now we're going to install the Docker engine. And so the answer was for him to try this. So I'm going to try this. And so far so good. There we go. Looks like we got something going here. So let's see what version of Docker we now have. Docker version. And look at that. Docker version 20.10.2 build. Hoo hoo. Ha ha. I like to save these little notes. So let's see. Okay, so we have, it appears that we have Docker installed. Let's see if they say anything else about the installation process for Docker. Okay, that's to install a specific version. Okay. So to ensure that it is installed correctly, we would say docker run hello world. Hello from Docker. This message shows that your installation appears to be working correctly. Okay, dokie. And to generate this message, Docker took the following steps, and then it's just lists the steps that it took. Okay, well, this is fine. So yeah, it's installed, it's working. So let's go ahead on to installing Docker Compose. So again, I Googled this, right, and it's how to install Docker Compose on Ubuntu 20.04, which I believe is what I'm running here. Apt update, app upgrade, install curl. Curl is already installed, right? And then download the latest Docker version. Okay, I'm not sure I did this before. So what I decided to do was go to the Docker Compose GitHub site and research what they say. And what they say is use pip install Docker Compose. Well, I had to install pip, which was actually the command I used was apt. Oops, wait a minute. Apt install Python 3 pip. So let me make a note of that in my Docker Compose installation. And theoretically, according to, where is that page? I just had it. Oh, here. Wait, where are we? It's the GitHub page. Ah, there we go. So theoretically, I should be able to type pip install Docker Compose. So let's try that and see what happens. Okay. Now let's see if we can do pip install Docker Compose. Can't uninstall Docker. No files to uninstall. Huh. Docker Compose version. Ha! Okay. So we got that sucker working. So now I know the process, which is hold on, let me make a note here. I keep copious notes, as you see, and I should have followed the notes that I had before. So first we install pip, then we install pip install Docker Compose. So for those of you keeping track at home, after you get Docker install, these are the two methods that you should use. Forget that curl method. I don't know what it was about, but it kind of screwed me up. So either do apt install Python 3-pip, assuming that Python 3 is already installed, and then pip install Docker Compose, or apt install Docker Compose, and then just enter this command, and all this does really is just gives Docker Compose the execute capability. So let's do that, and then we should be done with this piece of the puzzle. Okay, so we should be ready to use Docker Compose now. So let's go to my home directory, and I made a little directory called Docker just to play around with and, you know, put stuff in. So now we're ready to install the docker-wyze-bridge. All right, so I've done this before, but I'm going to go out to these instructions here. Let's see, where is that? Yeah, so essentially, the first step is to git clone the repository. Okay, there's been a small little update. I was trying to install the docker-wyze-bridge onto the Raspberry system. The Raspberry system is a ARM64 system, okay, and that's different from the regular AMD system that the docker-wyze-bridge was designed for. So the developer was gracious enough to actually create a branch of docker-wyze-bridge specifically for ARM64 Raspberry systems. So everybody just give him a big round of applause for that. Really, really appreciate it. So in order to install this branch, and again, I'm doing this video specifically for those of you who want to install on a Raspberry, you're going to go out to the docker-wyze-bridge project page on GitHub. And again, you're going to go to, as you see at the top right section, you see a little button that says code. You're going to click that, and you're going to get the copy the HTTPS URL. Okay, so I've got that copy. So I'm going to come back to my little work page here. Okay, so the command that you're going to enter in order to clone this particular branch is git clone -- branch space ARM 64 space, and then the project URL there. Okay, so, and again, the instructions, as you can see, he gives little quicker instructions, right? So usage: git clone this repo, edit the docker compose YAML with your Wyze credentials, then run docker compose up. Okay. Okay. Oh, and then you can run it, you can docker compose up -d to run it in detached mode, so that, you know, your screen doesn't get locked when you run it, if you're running it from a single terminal. So anyway, coming back here, so this is our command. I'm going to take this command and see if we can get this bad boy installed it on our little Raspberry system here. All right, bada bing, bada boom. Ah, look at that. Okay, so that basically cloned the branch, that cloned the ARM branch of the Wyze-bridge, docker-wyze-bridge. So now I'm going to run the next command, which is, I'm sorry, before I do that, I actually have to edit the docker compose YAML file. So if I do a directory, it's Wyze, so docker-wyze-bridge. Okay, so if I list the contents of the docker-wyze-bridge project that I just cloned here, you can see there's a docker compose YAML file. So to save time, what I did was I actually just created one in my Docker folder, which is the parent folder. for the docker-wyze-bridge that I created. And I'm just going to copy my credentials over to that directory, which is actually this process I kind of recommend that you do. It will make it a little easier for you. I'm surprised it didn't tell me that that was already there. But anyway, okay, so that second step, as you can see here, is to edit the Docker Compose YAML, right, with your Wyze credentials, which would be the Wyze email and the Wyze password, and then if you have any filters, okay, for the cameras that you want to use. Okie dokie. So now I'm going to go to the docker-wyze-bridge folder. Okay, and I'm going to run docker compose up, and this should do the actual installation and run the package. Okay, so as you can see, actually the package has already been installed before. And what I did was I deleted the directory so that I can walk you through that process. What would happen, as you see, it basically connects to the RTSP server and it starts the wyze-bridge. And as you can see from the screen here, it logs in, finds the cameras, and then starts to stream for each one. So essentially this thing is now working. So to test that, what I'm going to do is, let's see here, let's find a URL. Okay, so now theoretically I should be able to stream RTSP, okay, using this configuration. So my camera is WyzeCam 303, okay, which you see a stream was created for it here. And the Raspberry Ubuntu, I have a IP address for it, so I slot that in. All right, so the formula is RTSP : / the IP address of your Raspberry box, : 8554, that's the port that RTSP is running on, / and then the name of your camera in all lowercase, and in my case is WyzeCam 03. So to test this, I'm going to go and going to open up my VLC media player, and I'm going to look for Open Network String. All right, then I'm going to slot in that URL, and I'm going to click play, and there you go, running. All right, so this is a WyzeCam. I named it WyzeCam 303. It's outside my back porch, and it is now RTSP capable, thanks to the Wyze docker-wyze-bridge. Alrighty then. And that's it. I mean, you know, when you run this again, you'll probably want to run it again with the -D option, which will, you know, as you can see, my terminal is now locked with the screen. The -D will detach it from the screen so that you can continue doing, you know, other things. Okay, so I will put the URLs for this these particular installs. Okay, installing Docker Compose, installing Docker, Docker Compose, and docker-wyze-bridge. And hopefully you will be able to get your Raspberry up and running, this software, and you will then have yourselves a Wise-Bridge box. That's my little name I give it now. Okay, guess that's it. Thank you for listening. Hope it works for you.